A lot of dark stuff. I mean, the whole Summers family, Madeline, Jean, Alex saga, parents is ugly to begin with, right?
It's a hot mess. Like, who came up with this?
Claremont.
I'll let you say it. I mean,
No
I don't.
comment.
Not that I'm saying you're wrong, but
No comment over here.
well, you know, it's always kind of the thing, though. Like, I hate to say soap opera, but when you have characters who exist for this long, like things got to get messy, right? I mean, especially when it's like I feel like they spent forever attempting to make. I don't want to be rude and say make Scott interesting, but in that regard, it was kind of like oh, let's just keep doing soap opera and put him in these really impossible moral positions, and yeah, now here we are.
Isn't there a meme somewhere that has all the X-Men plots and a lot of them involve Cyclops, like, and a woman or something? You guys have seen that one, right?
I
Yeah,
have not seen that.
Or like something
makes
about
sense.
like Scott like getting caught up in something, like some kind of sticky situation.
yeah, and yet he still wants to act like he's a Boy Scout, and Logan is like the dirty man. Like, give me a break, right?
Listen, I'm a Logan stan. Like, I love him over Scott. Like, don't come for me. But I like him and Jean together. I know it's controversial, but I like him and Jean.
I think they should. I think they're the superior couple, and I think Scott and Emma are the superior couple. Like that, just like made way more sense, right?
I agree. I agree. I think you need somebody who's like like a bad boy or bad girl, right? With somebody who is a
The
Boy
opposite.
Scout,
Yeah.
Girl Scout, right?
You need those opposites attract.
Yeah, opposites attract. It makes
Yeah.
it more interesting. Like Scott and Jean, they're cute together, but they're also, I don't
Prom
know.
king and queen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we could say that. I was
Yeah.
gonna say boring, but that works. Justin is much more diplomatic.
Well, they had that thing where they fell in love as teenagers, right? Like I think mostly out of lack of options. Like Gene looked around and went, "Ugh, the guy with wings, the guy who turns into ice, the guy with massive feet." We'll leave that one alone.
Well, to be fair, in I think it was the time displaced X-Men, Jean actually did date Hank for a little bit.
Because he
And
wasn't
then
blue
in
yet.
the original comics, I think Angel hit on
Oh yeah.
he hit on Jean, right? Or like
Yeah.
they went on a date, something like that. Because there was like a whole flashback thing or like some kind of thing in Scott's mind where Archangel and Jean, this is like from the 90s, they were together and they were like making fun of Scott or something. How he's like, "Oh, I'm so glad like you left him and got with me," and she's like, "Ha ha ha, yeah." I don't know the exact context of all that, but I remember that panel when I was doing some unrelated research.
We've all been that way with exes, though. Like, even if they were a good person, like behind their back, you got to be like, yeah, what a dork. Yeah, I'm so glad that's over with. It's just like, it's the way you make yourself feel good, right?
Or I think maybe they just they outgrew each other, I think. And they didn't really get a chance to explore other situations. Like when we got time displaced X-Men, Jean did date other people, and I think Scott did too. I want to say he was with, is it
Wasn't it
X-23? I
Or
think
I know
he,
there's a cover. There's definitely a cover with Scott. And
yeah, I feel
Laura.
like he dated Laura, which is so funny
Right.
because she's like Wolverine, right?
Right.
And now Scott and Jean and Logan had this polyamorous relationship. So what is it saying?
I gotta.
What?
Yeah, I want to get into that, but imagine being Logan. Like, first of all, and you walk in on Scott and Laura. Like, you can't unsee that. Like, it's not even like I'm gonna whoop your ass because you're with my daughter, because it's not his daughter. It's literally him. Like, it is a clone of him. Just the gender is switched. So yeah, I think that would, if I were Logan, that would wreck me worse than anything I had been through previous with Weapon X and everything else. I would just be like, oh my God,
Well,
Charles,
it's
wipe
also
my
not
brain.
Scott that he knows because it's the time displaced Scott. So he's probably around the same age
Yeah,
as Laura.
that's
So it's
true.
not the same Scott.
These time displaced kids are something else.
Yeah.
Like Jean's a fucking bitch, man.
What was this new X-Men? Or I forget the title of the
I think it's all new
all new
X-Men.
X-Men.
Yeah.
That was when Bendis was writing it, right? That was like
Yeah.
his thing to do that.
Yeah. Well, let me just Google and confirm that Laura and time displaced Scott actually had a relationship. I
I just
didn't
remember seeing the cover.
Yeah, I remember seeing the cover and I could have sworn they dated because Laura was dating, she's dated quite a few different X-Men, right? Like she also dated Hellion, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I think
I don't
so.
know.
My
Man,
God.
these like dating trees get wild.
You imagine if she
Wild.
started dating Jean? Like Logan comes home and it's like, what is happening?
He's like, so she what? Like he's like, I need to go back in time. And,
Yeah.
Fix some things.
let me see.
Is it all new X-Men?
I'm Googling this because I don't want to be wrong. I don't want the X
Just
stands to
start
come
making
for me.
No, I
I
want
don't
you
want
to
to
be
make stuff
wrong. The
up.
comment section will be
Oh
on
my
fire. That'll be amazing. We
Oh
should
my
just
gosh,
start
look at
making
what
stuff
came up
up.
too. It looks like she may have dated Angel from the same time displaced team.
Mhm. Just
Uh,
making her rounds.
I mean, I don't. That's what it's looking like.
That would be a power couple.
Uh,
He could just like fly and drop her in anywhere.
right? Oh my gosh, this is okay. How Wolverine's clone quietly hooked up with two founding X-Men.
Mm.
Oh, she's got
I
game.
mean,
Yeah. Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, Logan could never unsee that. Like that's just even if he just came around a corner and they were kissing, it'd be like, oh, I'm gonna need to process this. My God. I
Like,
mean,
wait a minute.
yeah, like try to put yourself in that position. Like you have like a work rival, and somehow or another they start dating a younger version of them starts dating an opposite gender younger version of you. Like I don't even know how you begin to like explain that to your therapist of like why that's fucking you up so bad. Like I just don't
Yeah.
even know.
But I mean, does it say something about like Cyclops? I mean, because I feel like Laura's kind of a bad girl, right?
Yes,
She's
definitely.
kind of a bad girl,
She's a
right?
baddie.
And
Mhm.
Emma Frost is a baddie. Psylocke's a baddie.
Yeah. You,
Jean, listen, I'm not gonna talk smack about my girl. She's she's doesn't need no man, okay? She's all powerful, almighty Phoenix Force, okay? Omega level.
that so yeah, I do want to get into this whole like polycule thing because like the weird reaction that's been happening on like the X groups, over the course of the past couple weeks. What's we'll just start there, you guys. Like what's your read on that whole thing to begin with?
About how like
Were
they're just
they
gonna pretend we didn't see what we saw.
right? Yeah, yeah. Like, and to clarify for people, like it seemed to me on the pages like it was heavily hinted at something was going on. I personally reading it, and I never talked to anybody like outside of my own brain, but in me reading it, I never quite entirely knew how to take it. Like, is that actually what they're implying that this is what's happening, or am I just reading into it too much? But it seems like a lot of people were like, yeah, like, no, yeah, definitely, definitely this was going on.
Do you want to go first?
I think that's the way that they wrote it and drew the panels to make people, I guess, question it. So it could be it's ambiguous, but I think the majority see it happening in their heads. So I don't think it's like I said, they didn't put it on the pages specifically, but it's there.
It's on the pages to me. It's there. Like someone even broke it down. I feel
yeah.
so bad. I can't
I
remember
saw
who
that.
did. Someone did a very good job.
They did a YouTube video on it.
Yeah, and there was like they did all of the pages, all the panels, all the screenshots, and I was like, yeah, it's definitely there's some kind of shared thing with Jean Grey. I don't know. Listen, I don't know if like Scott and Logan are doing anything. I don't know. Okay, that that was not on the page.
Right.
But they're definitely sharing Jean Grey.
So it could totally be a V situation. All right.
It could be. I'm not saying that Scott and Logan didn't do stuff or like the three of them didn't do stuff, but I think there's all like love there now.
Yeah. I could see that. Maybe that, and previous conversation, that'd be hilarious if that played into it. Like Scott is seeing young Scott like hook up with Laura and be like, maybe this has awakened something in me. I never actually thought about that
Maybe.
before. Maybe that's why I was upset, but still a little bit cool with Gene being into Logan because I kind of get it. I kind of like understand,
I
and
get
that
it too,
like,
girl. I get it too. Like for sure, for sure. And I think Logan is bi because there's like a different version of him from a different universe where he's with Hercules. Like they're in a relationship. So I think like Logan could also be into dudes. So,
yeah,
and maybe Scott is like, well, let's just try it out.
what happens in Krakoa stays in Krakoa. Yeah,
What happens at the treehouse stays at the treehouse.
I was
Oh
having
wait,
that.
no, are they on the moon? I forget where they live.
Oh
Are they
yeah,
on the moon? Are they on Mars?
I thought it was Mars.
I
yeah.
can't remember. All the summers are together, but then they have Logan there too.
Well, yeah. So
Like
Logan,
you're gonna say, oh no, they're just friends. They're just
right?
roommates.
Never.
I mean,
Logan looks like he'd be into beer and some summer sausage. That's okay. That is okay. Um, yeah, and I was
yeah.
having this exact conversation with Dylan because, of course, Dylan's always giving me crap about being a Logan guy because I'm always a Logan
I
guy
will
and
not
always
do
will
that.
be. You
I won't
know,
do that.
I love it when he does it because I love it when people give me shit. But he was like giving me shit about like Logan, like, potentially being like gay or bi. And I'm like, I don't know if he is or he isn't, but for as long as he has been alive, you can't tell me that at some point in time a dude didn't slip in there. I mean, it's perfectly reasonable to make that speculation. So,
I agree with that.
Mhm.
I think so.
well, we'll leave it to the X-Men. The X-Men have been fighting for civil rights, fighting for LGBTQ rights. Now we're like getting into their fighting for polyamory rights. So they're just trend setting and and it's just gonna go from there.
I love to see it though. It's
Hmm.
good.
It is. It is. What are you guys thinking about the Krakoan era coming to an end here? I mean, have you? I should say I should just start there. I know it's kind of a dumb question, but it's always fun to talk about. Did you enjoy the Krakoan era, and how do you guys kind of like feel about it coming to an end?
Do you want me to go first?
I'll go first because mine's shorter.
Okay.
So, to be honest, I didn't read past what X of Swords, so I don't even know the majority of what's happening. It splintered so much. There were so many different titles. I just couldn't keep up and lost track after X of Swords,
Mm.
and I pretty much just followed what the Hellfire Gala, and that was really it.
Yeah.
Anything beyond that or outside of that, I don't know what's going on in Krakoa. So,
What did you think about House of X or Powers of X?
I thought it was good. I thought it was a great new story, a new telling, like a great new storyline. And then, like I said, it just got crazy and so splintered into so many different titles. There was like X-Men Red, White, Blue, Gold, Yellow,
I don't think we got
Black.
yellow.
I don't
We
know.
had green
There
though.
were so many
We had
different.
green.
There was so many titles. I was like, I don't know.
Justin doesn't read a lot.
Yeah.
Either. So
I have a hard time keeping track when there's so many different storylines going on.
and to be fair, they did like relaunch some titles
so many times,
multiple
Yeah.
times. I think like Hellions got like, or no, there was Fallen Angels, and then I think it kind of turned into Hellions, like people like characters from Fallen
Mhm.
Angels went over to Hellions. Like they had too many titles in the relaunch.
Yeah.
It was overwhelming for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's kind of good that they're wrapping up the messiness of it and bringing it back to something new.
I agree with half of his statement.
Okay, all right. Let's go.
I feel like the cleanup like was very much needed, but I don't think Krakoa needed to end. I think we were starting to get some fresh stories and adventures from our heroes, and to see it all end, to see things that were really beautiful like discarded without like consequence, I think that is unfortunate. Like the polyamorous relationship, like that's one thing that everyone was kind of like, oh, like are they, aren't they, like it's there, it's not there, and it was cheeky and fun, and now it's just like, oh yeah, we don't know what that was like. I think that is really unfortunate for this series. Something I liked in the beginning and then I didn't like towards the end was the character of Moira McTaggart.
Mm-hmm.
That got a little off the rails.
Her, she kind of like was in. I think she was introduced. I can't remember as Power or House of X, but we got this whole storyline that Moira McTaggart is a mutant, and her mutant power is that when she dies, she relives her life. And I'm like, that is so bonkers to me, but also makes so much sense. It makes sense because she contracted the legacy virus, and everyone was like, how did Moira get this? She's a human. No, she's not. She's a mutant. Like, that's so crazy. And she's lived, like, what was it? Was it the 8 lives? No, 10 lives
10?
Mm-hmm.
of Moira
I think so.
McTaggart.
Yeah.
And we got to like see some of these, and how that one where they were in space and there was maybe like a handful of mutants left and Wolverine was one of them, and she asked him, she's like, I need you to kill me, like I need you to do what you do best. And like, and he understood everything. Like mutants were so rare that they became like this endangered species, like living in this little biodome, because humans just like didn't exist anymore either. Like humans were gone, mutants were rare, and now it's all these like machines or whatever
beings or whatever they were.
Yeah, and then seeing her join forces with Apocalypse, like that was bonkers too. I'm like, damn, girl, damn. I'm like, live your best life. Like, all like, you want to go with your bad self? Yeah,
She
yeah.
had to go completely opposite of what she was doing before because they weren't working.
Yeah, and then like Destiny burning her alive, like that's savage as fuck, and she remembers that shit too. Like, and Destiny knows she remembers it because Destiny sees all. So like, I like that. I like their little feud. Moira was cool and chill until she wasn't. Okay? Until she decided like she didn't want to be kept a secret anymore. She wanted to be too bad. Like she was feeling herself a little too much. And then she basically became this like crazy cyborg. And when she skinned Banshee like for his face so that she could leave Krakoa, I was like, nah, I was done. I'm like, that's your homeboy. Like he never did anything to you. Like he loved you and protected you, and like that's how you're gonna do him? No, girl, no. And then she was hunting mutants. Like she just got too crazy, too wild, like too fast. I didn't like that story.
I didn't get into any of that part.
Yeah, I was like,
That
girl, be
was
wild.
the half I did not follow.
And then she murders my girl. So
Yes.
yeah.
In the back.
I do like the resurrection stuff though, because we were able to see characters that we haven't seen in such a long time. And a lot of we got to see resurrected characters, and we got to see depowered mutants get their powers back. Because we got the Crucible. So in the Crucible, they had to go fight against Apocalypse, but it wasn't really a fight. Basically, like it was a glorified sacrifice. Like he was just kind of like murdering them, you know, like they fight to get murdered, to be resurrected, so they can get their powers back. And like that was all crazy too. I'm like, damn, these like mutants be savage, you know? But it was just, these were just stories that we hadn't gotten before. These were fresh takes on people. And then like the backups like getting corrupted. I think it was like Rockslide who was
Mhm.
maybe corrupted. Like his backup wasn't intact, or like they lost it. And so they resurrected a different version of him. And that's when they realized, they're like, oh man, we just can't be resurrecting anybody. Like we gotta make sure we have everyone backed up. And if we don't have you backed up, you might truly be gone, you know?
Mhm.
Like
It
all
was,
that,
yeah. It was
all
I
that.
House of X, Powers of X was amazing. Like I had picked up the trade and started reading it, and I had been out of like regular monthly X-Men comics for a couple of years, and I remember the first page being like, what the fuck? What
Oh
is
yeah.
happening?
When
But it was,
everyone dies.
yeah, but it was so
Yeah.
fresh, and it was so like these were beloved characters, but I mean, let's be honest, like for people who've been X-Men fans for a really long time, like how often can we do Xavier's school blows up? How often can we do that? And getting to do Krakoa was like a way to do it, like it opened a whole new way of telling these X-Men stories, and I thought it was phenomenal. I do feel like it, me personally, I'm sad. Like I feel like it's coming to an end a little prematurely. I am excited for where this could be going next, mainly because I love Gail Simone, and I'm like so excited for what she's going to do with Uncanny. Um, but it felt like the whole Krakoa thing, they could have run with that for several more years. However, to agree with JT on this one, like the storylines got insanely convoluted. Like it really became a miss a little, miss a lot. Like if you missed one issue, you'd come back and be like, "What is happening? Like why?" So that person's mad at okay. Um, but do remember reading House of X, Powers of X, and like when they had the council, and it's like there's Sinister and there's Apocalypse and there's Magneto and there's Xavier, and like '90s X-Men fan in me was going like, "Whoa!" Like this is something you never, ever, ever imagined would end up being possible, and yet it ended up such a really rich storyline.
Yeah, I liked that they weren't fighting the usual big bads anymore. They were kind of fighting
Humanity.
uh humanity a little bit, but more so like the future that Moira saw. She's the one that said like, listen, like this is going to fail. Like it fails every single time. So they were really like fighting for their future, and they weren't fighting each other. They were trying to work in unison. Like it was the first time that everybody was like, yeah, we all have to come together to make sure that we don't become extinct, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Um, what um, what are you excited for going forward? I know, like I just mentioned, Uncanny X-Men. Are there any of those, like from the Ashes things that in any way, shape, or form is tickling your interest, or are you just along for the ride?
I'm always just along for the ride. I just like I like to see where it goes, and then if it goes a little too crazy, then I kind of lose interest in it. But I like to I like when they pick up with new stories for sure. So it should be pretty good. We'll see. I mean, they have a legendary writer on there, so
I like that we're getting like a head female writer, because I think it does make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Uncanny is like the longest running like title, X-Men title. So I feel like that is always like a great staple, like that you can always jump into, and that's going to give you like the guts of the X-Men, basically. From the Ashes, I'm not sure, to be honest. Like, listen, I love Jean Grey. I just don't know what's going to happen in this story. I feel like she just had a mini series come out. So like from the Ashes, I mean, she got murdered, so I guess this is like her
from the ashes,
resurrection again.
resurrection,
I mean, she's notorious for like
dying
I
and
don't
coming back.
yeah, I don't want her to play into that like resurrection trope so much. Like,
Mm-hmm.
can't my girl just live? Like, can she
Right.
just live? or like stay dead. I mean, I don't want her to stay dead. I just don't feel like it should, like, it feels like a running joke. Like, oh, let's kill Jean. She'll come back, or she'll be like, listen, I'll sacrifice for y'all, but I'll be back.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. And I don't want that for her. I don't want her to be the sacrificial lamb anymore.
That should straight up be the title of her solo book, is like Phoenix BRB. Because it's just like that's like that, because that's been, like you said, that's been a trope forever. Like ever since we first did the whole Phoenix storyline back in the Claremont days, it was like, how many times has Jean died? And oh look, Jean's back. Okay, so, and especially since, I mean, because what was it, like 8 years she was dead in the comics?
I
And it's
believe it was
like,
longer.
yeah, so if you bring her back after that, I understand. But it's like she just died like not that long ago. And yet we're already like, oh, by the way, from the ashes. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know what this story is really about. I didn't dive into it. I didn't want to be disappointed. Like, if I'm pleasantly surprised, that's great. Like, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. If this is going to be a great story, let's do it.
Yeah, I feel
Go
you.
for it.
I've definitely always been there exactly the same, especially when it comes to Wolverine, because they have to pump so many Wolverine titles out there that you'd think that, like, somebody who's a Wolverine fan, you just devour all of it. I've read a lot of stupid dumb Wolverine storylines where you're just like, bro, you like found a guy in an alley and said, hey, write 4 issues, we'll slap Wolverine on the cover and it'll sell. Like, that's literally all you did. This is just absolute hot garbage. But I don't know. I get it. So I feel you on that, but we'll see.
Also, as a cosplayer, I don't like it when we get like too many outfits that we're not committing to. I mean, give me something. Okay, I don't really like when things get resurrected too much either. Like when Marvel Girl's outfit came back, I was like, oh man, really? But and we got her in her Hellfire Gala like uniform, which was cool. Like that was a cool look, and we had that for a while. I like that. But I just don't like it when we get uniform upgrades for no reason. And then it's like, well, how long is that uniform going to stick around until they go back to what they normally wear? That I don't like that.
Yeah, just about the time you buy the cosplay for it and get all excited for it and make all the alterations and it looks great, you do a photo shoot, and then like a month later they change their outfit in the comic, and you're like, well, okay. Now a month from now, nobody will know
like
who
that
I am.
happened with like Jean's X-Men Red outfit.
Yeah.
Like when like right after she got resurrected, they had the X-Men Red series, and she had that new
blue and red.
Yeah, and it was there for a hot second, and then it was gone.
Just that series, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't
You last past that?
I don't even remember. I think like once Krakoa Resurrection happened, she came back as Marvel Girl, so she went back to her dress for a long time, and then she started wearing her first Hellfire Gala outfit. Like that became her uniform.
Gosh, I'm so sorry. I hope I don't make anybody mad. I always hated that Marvel Girl outfit. Like it, like tactically made no sense. Like you're going into fight in a miniskirt, and what's with the mask? Who are you trying to confuse? Everybody knows it's you. Like I even thought that, like watching X-Men '97, like when they're at the end of this big fighting, it's like you can take that off now. Like it's just got to be annoying and in the way at this point,
Yeah. Is it fashion or is it function?
Right.
Like that's yeah. And none of these have pockets.
Right.
Unless you're a guy, you got tons of pouches.
I was gonna say, if you're Cyclops, you got pockets for days. You're carrying all the units' vittles right there.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, she's a telepath.
Just gonna like float around her.
Well,
like,
she doesn't
there's my
actually
lip
have to
balm.
like. She doesn't have to go hand to hand combat. She can just sit in the back room and think stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But is she gonna do that?
She's gonna sip on her iced coffee and.
Oh, she gonna pass out. She's tired.
Yeah.
She didn't get her second coffee. Her blood sugar is low.
That's why Jean's your girl. That makes sense. Yeah, she's gonna pass out in the back of the room when the group text with Scott and Logan gets too hot. I can't.
Oh.
Yeah.
I only make fun of her because I love her.
Right. Yeah. I'm there with you. And do you remember, like, there was I do think it's something that at least maybe I sound like an old curmudgeon here, but I sort of feel like X-Men comics. that is one thing that we did lose. Like I loved when Uncanny X-Men was like 213, 309, and it was like you could pick up an issue and whatever it was, that number went all the way back to number one. And with the whole constantly relaunching thing, it gets a little bit like, what is happening. And even then, like they went years and years and years with their outfits never changed. You remember when like there was like a big deal when like Joe Mad was like given like the go ahead to like redesign some of the X-Men, because that's something that literally hadn't been done since like Claremont's day. Like Storm was getting a new outfit and Gambit was getting a new outfit. I mean, they were super 90s. I mean, we're talking like, massive shoulder pads and the whole thing. And now it's just like for every miniseries they pump out there, like, oh yeah, they got new outfits this time.
Yeah. As a cosplayer, I hate that.
But as a female, you have to understand she needs a new outfit for vacation.
I definitely I understand that part. I understand. If she's going on vacation, if she's in her civilians, yeah. Like that's great. But when she goes into battle, or anyone goes into battle, like they should have a uniform that's pretty standard. Or if they get upgrades, it should make sense. Like I don't know. I saw Emma Frost's new outfit, for example, and like so many people are like, Michelle, when are you going to do this? And I'm all, I don't want to put any effort into that if it's only going to be around for a little while.
Right.
Because that's like not functional.
What's the new? I don't even know if I've seen the new one.
It's like, it's a halter top with the X.
Okay, yeah, okay.
And then there's those strap things that are just hanging. And the thing is we saw concept art that had Emma had 4 looks, right? And honestly, like most of those other looks were much better than the final version. So I'm just like, what? There was one that was very like utilitarian, but it had an Emma twist on it, and I'm like, that, yeah, like that I could get. She's like, all right, yeah, functional and fashionable for real. And she looked great. She wasn't showing too much skin, a little bit, but not like her midriff wasn't out either. I think she maybe had like an X like over her boobs, but that's fine.
Yeah.
But she had like boots on, like her legs were covered.
She's not just running around in midriff and high heels.
Yeah, it's like that. Listen, my girl makes it look good though. Okay, she looks good. I'm not saying she doesn't look good in what she's wearing, but like, why are we doing this? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, I can't wait to see more. I really, really hope we get more of her in X-Men 97. Because what little bit she was in there was like so vintage Emma that it's like, oh, please give me more.
I know. But it's just, I wouldn't even say it's vintage Emma. I think it's just Emma, period.
Yeah.
Like, that is her vibe. Like, oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. I'm here for more Emma.
Speaking of, I want to bring up X-Men 97, which is like, obviously it could be like a podcast in and of itself, or 10 weeks of live streams, because we were all a part of that as well. Thank you for that, by the way. But yeah, as you kind of like briefly encapsulate, like looking back on X-Men 97, what are your thoughts, man? Like that was pretty insane, right?
Insane? Yeah. Yeah, that was, I mean, it was intense for sure. I loved how they told a new story but stayed true to the comic storylines. And they changed up. They basically weren't like telling the comics word for word or panel per panel. They were taking ideas and storylines and just incorporating them into a brand new story, killing off certain people, different people, and making others heroes of the day. So I thoroughly enjoyed every aspect of it.
I agree with everything Justin said.
Like, oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I don't always disagree with him, or I just like half agree. I think I have more feelings than Justin. Like, not that he doesn't have feelings, but I have more feels in me in general. I thought it was just so epic. Like, we got to see the first 3 episodes at the fan event, and getting to experience that with other fans, like seeing it for the first time, Like we all rode the emotions together. Like the first episode was so happy. You know, as soon as you heard the theme song, you like, oh my God, you were just in it. Like everyone screamed at the opening. Every time we got a new title card, we were like, yeah, yes, oh my God, yes. And we just, like, it was a reintroduction to everybody. It's like we got the gang back together. It's like you are going to, I don't want to say your high school reunion, but like some kind of reunion of a group of people that you really liked. Like the gang's back together. And the second episode, it was a little more intense. Like, you know, it was heavier. We all experienced that together in the theater too, like the gasps and the and the oh my fucking God, no, they didn't. And I think there was one moment where like Storm comes in and she's doing her monologue and it's about to go down. And as soon as we heard like her epic like lines, her monologues, everyone just screamed like for like a solid, like, I swear, like 30 seconds. That's what it felt like to me. And the way that they're telling these really complex stories, because some of these stories were spread out over multiple titles. Like oh my gosh,
Inferno.
like Inferno. Like, Inferno was nuts. Like that was a big like crossover event that I think it was
Took
like in
months.
yeah,
I feel they told that in months.
it was like in Excalibur. It was in, did we have X Factor then? I don't know. It was over multiple titles. There were a lot of characters involved. But the way that they told it, I mean, yes, it was very condensed. Some people will complain that it was too condensed. It wasn't the full story, but it's like they told the parts that were relevant to X-Men specifically. And that was great. The whole, like the way they handled Madeline Pryor in this was beautiful. They made her character 100 times better than she was in the comics. You know, they utilized that Emma and Scott betrayal storyline with her in a way that it made sense, where the audience could sympathize with Scott and be like, yeah, you know, of course, like he's confused. Like he didn't realize he had married his girlfriend's clone and then he went and had a baby with her. So yes, he's going to have this attachment to this other woman. And I feel like Madeline was way more understanding about that situation being the clone than Jean was. I felt like Jean was kind of, I mean, listen, I don't like to talk smack about my girl, but she was not handling it well, you know what I mean? And I think that Jean just like finally needed to understand that, okay, well, they had a very different relationship than she had. So I think in the end, like the way they wrapped all that up was really nice.
Yeah, and I thought writing wise, like, well, first of all, I just want to say that I think it's idiotic to ever think that they need to take a storyline line by line canon and transfer it over in order to like that's so stupid. No, take the elements that made the story great and integrate it over, and I think they were absolutely brilliant at doing that. I thought they were really good at like the way they handled Scott and that whole situation. Like I think I felt for him more than anybody. Like, can you imagine like you've had this woman that you've dated for years and you got married and like right after you have a child you find out that at some point in time she got swapped out with a clone and then that clone just like puts on a backpack and says, well, I guess I'll go, and just like
I
walks away,
know.
and now you have the woman here and your kid that you now had to say, I mean, like, if that isn't a mind fuck, I don't know what is. Yeah, of course anybody's going to be like have massive PTSD and have no idea. They'd be so confused about everything after that. And of course you're going to feel the need to like reach out to the woman that like 5 minutes ago you were sleeping next to, who's now just like went on the dusty trail. Of course you're going to want to reach out and be like, even if it's just awkward, so how's it going? Like that'd be so
Uh,
weird.
you want to check in. I mean, they had a child and they lost their child together too. Like
Hmm.
they went through a trauma together, and like, you know, Jean's just not going to get that. She has her own trauma that she's got to deal with herself. And so I like the way that they told their stories. That was beautiful.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they
I
definitely knocked it out of the park with choosing the writers and writers group, or what do you want to call it? Writers room? I don't know what they call it.
The
Writing
writing
team. The
team.
writing
The writing
team,
team.
because they had such a deep connection to the X-Men just starting out before even getting into it, that they could almost rewrite these characters and fix the issues that were written in the comics.
Mm-hmm.
So it just made everything so much better in that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right. Like you may have like a story in the comic book, but now you've got some distance from it where you can say, okay, what would have made this storyline better? Like what would have streamlined it? What would have, because in the show, none of us wanted to deal with the whole like Jean dies, Scott meets Madeline, they have a child, he finds out Jean's alive and ditches her with a baby. Like, first of all, that's too much
And then
screen
she
time.
dates his brother.
Right, yeah. But I mean, hey, Summers. That's where we started. Like,
There's two other brothers though.
I
Like
know, but none of them are Scott. But I still stand by my theory though, when that whole like storyline was going on in X-Men 97, like I am going to blow all your minds if we just like take another page from the X-Men books and explain polyamory to you. Because if Logan, Scott, Jean, and Madeline could have just all like cohabitated on a cabin next to the lake, they could have had a lot easier time with some of the stuff that came later. I'm just saying.
that's not. You're not wrong. You're
Scott
not
wasn't
wrong.
there yet, though. Like add that to the storyline, like Madeline, Jean, and like Logan approaching Scott. So we wanted to pitch something to you. What?
I feel like they have to have Emma in there too. Like once Emma comes along, maybe this will be what's 5 people in a relationship? What's that?
Quintuplet, a quintuple.
Quin
I'm just gonna
Quincule?
call it a pentagon. Like I don't know, like
Yeah. Yeah.
pentaveret. Would that be? Anyway, yeah, that show could have really gotten off the rails. I'm gonna like start emailing producers and writers tomorrow and be like, guys, I got season 2. This is gonna be amazing. So episode 3, Psylocke walks in. Like we're just
Oh my god.
we're just gonna have all kinds of fun with this. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Scott loves his telepaths. He cannot help himself.
Right.
He's like, girl, you in my mind? Cool. What you
Yeah.
doing? What's up?
Get in my brain and make daddy happy.
Logan only likes Jean. Because you never see Emma and Logan hook up.
No.
You never see Psylocke and Logan hook up.
No, which I always felt like they would have made a great couple. Of course, personally, I was always a fan of the Logan Domino relationship. Like anytime they were together, I just thought that was that was a lot of fun because they were like that was like one couple that you didn't want to interrupt movie night because you would be in for a world of hurt if you messed with that couple.
I feel like that's like a Mr. and Miss Smith type relationship there.
That would be such a good show if they did it like that.
Mm-hmm. Coming next fall on Disney Plus, X-Force Sex and Violence.
Oh, I don't know if they could adapt that. Like, no.
From the shit I'm seeing from Deadpool 3, why not? Like,
well, maybe if it was marketed as a more adult show.
Yeah.
They could do it then.
And I still stand by. We need a X-Men 97 spinoff called Generation X, but please do all the animation like Bacello style, like 100%. Oh my god, that'd be like a dream come true, wouldn't it?
I would literally die. Like that's all little me wants to like. Yeah, you have no idea. I stayed up so late to watch that made for TV movie that I thought was going to be a series. And my heart broke when I found out it was never coming back. Like, so if we could get animated Generation X,
do a lot better job for sure.
I mean, listen, I'm not gonna complain for what I got. Like the fact that we even got Generation X on a screen is incredible because that's a deep cut.
That's very
it is
a deep cut.
And I always had a laugh.
Let's bring it back.
Yeah, and I always had a laugh out of it because as an X-Men fan and somebody who was like a huge Generation X fan, like from issue 1, I had no idea that existed. What was it like? I think Michelle, I think like 3 years ago, I did a podcast with you, and on the podcast, you told me about it, and I was like, "Shut up, no way." And like after the podcast, I went and looked up on YouTube. I'm like, "Oh my god, this is so '90s. This is so like Fox '90s style television." I see why it didn't get picked up. I mean,
I mean, I know why it didn't get picked up either, but listen, the actors that played Emma and Banshee in that, like, top notch, top
yeah,
notch.
Good choice.
Actually, all the actors did a great job with what they had
hmm
to work with. Because, like, they didn't have a budget, so they couldn't do chamber properly, so we got refracts. They couldn't do husk, so we got buff. Um, we got Mondo, we got M, we got Jubilee, we got Skin. I think, I think that was everybody that they gave us.
hmm Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
it, for me. It's always been frustrating because I've always been a fan of Banshee. Banshee on any kind of medium, whether it's TV or movie, the powers don't transfer well. Like I actually, as much as I love the animated series, and I was so excited watching the original animated series when Banshee showed up, I'm like, yes. And then the first time he screamed, I'm like, shut it off. Like, shut it off. And then when they tried to do it in X-Men First Class, I was like, oh God, no, please, just let's not. You know?
Oh, well, they got some time. They can figure things out with Banshee.
That's why they shipped his ass to Boston. They're like, the rest of the X-Men were tired of hearing it. They're like, hey, we got a great idea. You're going to open a new school that way.
Well, I mean,
Screaming.
he was one of the only like X-Men left after the Phalanx
Yeah, that was post
thing.
Phalanx, wasn't it? God, that was such a great
Yeah,
storyline.
so
Yeah.
good.
On that vein, though, of like Generation X, what did you guys think of the New Mutants movie? Like, I think it's kind of like a dark horse that not enough people talk about.
I agree.
Yeah,
I actually liked it. I thought it was good.
yeah.
It wasn't that far off from the comics, so I don't see why it was hated on so much.
Mhm.
I think people just, I think they expected too much from it, and then it came out. It came out
During the
during the
pandemic.
pandemic because I remember our theater opened for like a week or
Yeah.
two before it shut back down, and we wanted to support. It's like right across the street from us, and hardly anyone's there. And New Mutants was playing, so we're like, well, let's go see New Mutants. Like it, we had heard it was not great. Like it got not good reviews, but the acting in it was
It's good.
superb. The characters were all portrayed very well. Like their powers definitely translated onto the screen very well. The I think the only negative thing I have is the way Cecilia Reyes was portrayed as a villain, and
Mhm.
she is not a villain. So I think that was the only misstep that I saw with that movie.
Mhm. That was one of those movies. I'm not gonna lie, I never went and saw it in theater, and I don't think I saw it till like a year or even two after it came out. Because it was one of those movies when they first announced it, I was really excited because I love the new mutant storyline. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great. The problem is like I felt like the X-Men franchise of films had like slowly like just hit dirt. And then that movie got delayed a bunch. Like, didn't it end up coming out like years after it was originally supposed to?
Yeah,
Yeah, and to
yeah,
me that just sounded like it was going to be an absolute hot mess. And then the pandemic was happening, and I'm like, there's no way I'm bothering with that movie. There's no way. And then it was like a couple of years after it came out, and I finally did. It was like on HBO Max or something. I finally decided one night, I'm like, all right, I'll sit down. I got nothing better to do. I might as well get this piece of shit in. That was a good movie. That was a
oh
good
my
movie.
god,
I finished it. I'm like, yeah, Jamie watched it with me, and she knows nothing about at the time, nothing about the New Mutant storyline. And even she was like, that was actually pretty good. And I'm like, yeah, the way they did magic was amazing. Like I've got no complaints. It had like the right like suspense, even like the whole thing with like Sunspot in the pool and like that whole like nightmare. Like that was balls. Like, oh my God.
yeah,
Now I'm like telling people like, hey guys, go watch this movie. Like I'm a reformed naysayer. I thought it was going to be like the worst movie ever, and actually really enjoyed it.
yeah. I mean, I don't think they stuck to the origins really, but they had enough there where it worked. It worked as like a suspenseful like horror
Mhm.
like Marvel movie.
Hmm. Yeah. Speaking of which, now is it just like we just recently got announced that they have hired a writer to write
Oh
an
yeah,
MCU
X-Men.
X-Men script. Um, and I'm gonna
Hmm.
say, did you hear this? The It's a Hollywood writer. I feel terrible. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He's got some accolades to his name, and he's officially hired
Mhm.
to write the first X-Men MCU movie. I will say that after X-Men 97 came out, I don't envy his job because how do you even begin to write that? Like, you can't just do like the movie like another Origins movie because we've been through that with both X-Men, the animated X-Men 97, of course, the the Bryan Singer verse. So I don't even know. I don't even know what storyline you would even where you would want to, because like they were kind of smart. They did that with Spider-Man. When they got to Spider-Man Homecoming, they skipped over the origin completely. Like they didn't bother with the Uncle Ben and all that stuff. Like y'all have been through this, the story. Um, but yeah, righty. Like I don't know. What do you guys think? Where would you want to see a MCU X-Men movie sort of like storyline tackle, or what would be a good like jump on point?
I think they're gonna pick up somewhere from not exactly where 97 ends, but they're gonna have a pre-existing team, and it's going to be loosely based on the characters of 97 is what I think is going to happen.
Hmm.
But it would not be smart or easy to rewrite a brand new story with new characters and all that. It just wouldn't make sense.
Hmm.
I've seen all the screen rants where they're showing all these little Easter eggs how it's tying into the MCU.
Hmm.
So I think they're gonna have partial, just like they're bringing some of the what if into the MCU also. So it's gonna be something similar to that. I think.
Okay.
Those are my thoughts.
I think this could go two different ways. I like Justin's theory too. Like Justin, so maybe three different ways. It could tie in to what X-Men 97 is doing. But it could also give us a chance to explore maybe a different team of X-Men. Like what about Outback X-Men? Like we still have some core members there. We have Wolverine and we have Rogue, and then we have some newer characters. We have Dazzler, Longshot, Havoc. We have Summers,
Hmm.
Betsy. So before she's Psylocke, we have Betsy. And I think there's one more. My gosh, I hope I'm not forgetting anybody.
Both
But
balls.
basically, like the X Men are dead. Like they're presumed dead. So that's when Outback X-Men comes in, and it's this different team. Like the X-Men are dead, so like, oh, we have Outback X-Men instead. And I think that would be cool to utilize some characters that we haven't maybe seen a lot of. So we could delve into their backstories and explore like new origins, new adventures through these underutilized characters. Or if they want to be like if they want to be a little crazy, why don't we just dive straight into Krakoa? Like X-Men 97 is not going to get there anytime soon.
Hmm.
So why not give us Krakoa? Because in this world, we can de-age some of our people. Like everyone's saying, like some of these actors have aged out. Well, this is a way to get fresh faces playing some of these older characters that we've seen a few times.
Hmm.
Instead of doing like the whole Age of Apocalypse thing where, we get them in the 90s, it's like, okay, we're getting them in the now and they're younger so they'll live longer kind of a
Hmm.
deal. And then we can get anybody. Like who hasn't been around for a while, we don't necessarily have to focus on like the core team. We could get, there's so many titles where we can grab teams from. So if they wanted to, they could do something like that.
Hmm. It
So
feel
so the writer's name is Michael Leslie, and he wrote Assassin's Creed and Hunger Games, the latest one.
Hmm.
So he wrote a
Interesting.
prequel and a video game.
Yeah. Or
Yes.
did either of you, yeah, let me put it this way, either of you either play any of the Assassin's Creed games or see the movie?
All the above.
All
Justin is
right.
like, he loves
I
Assassin's
played
Creed.
every single one except for the first one and the one that just came out.
Okay. You're okay
He's
skipping
like,
both of those.
But I played every single other one.
Justin
I,
loves them.
I can't move my computer right now, but I've got like a shelf up there with statues of like all the assassins from the series. I'm a huge fan of it as well. So if you've seen the movie, you know, I wonder if that like gives us a little bit because while you had all these when they said they were making an Assassin's Creed movie, you got excited because there's all these like iconic assassins from the different games. And instead he wrote a movie about an original assassin that doesn't exist anywhere in the games but brought in the elements from the game. I'm the Animus thing I thought got a little goofy. I'm not gonna lie, but all in all, I felt like it told a good story and it gave the gist of an Assassin's Creed story. So if that gives us any insight into his writing style and the way he may end up approaching X-Men, um, I don't know. I kind of feel like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you make an X-Men movie and it doesn't have a lot of the core team in it, a lot of your like general audience mildly interested in X-Men fans are going to be upset. Like, especially the new fans from X-Men 97. They're like, I went and saw this movie. There was no Wolverine, no Cyclops, no Jean Grey. Like, how is this even X-Men? On the other hand, if you could 100% just go with that, then it just feels like you're just telling the same story again, you know? So I don't.
Unless they go with giant size X-Men.
They could.
Oh.
That is also a really great spot to start at.
Hmm.
So they played enough out of the original X-Men. So what if they start off with giant size X-Men?
That would be
Or
cool.
the And like the main mission could be to find the OG X-Men, but before they get there, they could have other adventures, you know.
Yeah.
Like I don't think they have to wrap it all up in one movie where they find the X-Men at the end. Maybe they just find like one or two of them or
Or
something.
it could
And
be an origin story of the giant size.
Yeah.
yeah. And that could
And
introduce
technically
Krakoa.
there was a team in between that too. There was Moira's team that got sacrificed, basically.
Hmm.
Also had a Summers brother.
Yeah,
Mm.
and that was in Giant Size X-Men. The original X-Men were in prison on Krakoa, right? So that could be like your good way of like introducing Krakoa for like the second
That's
or third movie.
Krakoa Gateway.
Yeah, see? See? It's all
We need to
connected.
start putting it out there. Start
Oh,
pitching
you know,
this.
yeah, you're putting it out there and
Putting
then
it out
someone's
there.
gonna steal
Someone's
your idea.
That's fine. Just make it good. I don't
fine.
care.
Just make it good. Take
Invite me to
it
make it a good
done.
movie,
I'm
invite
not
me to the
writer.
red carpet and give me a fist bump. We're good. Like I'm fine.
They're like, dude,
Um,
I saw that YouTube video.
right.
I got inspired.
That's where it came from, bro. It's all you. Yeah. Yeah, I'll be in like the special thanks to at the end of the credits. It'll just say Finch and nobody will know why.
Yeah.
Um
You have to be careful though. Like, you know, some people will do that. Like they'll just take your idea and not even give you credit.
Mhm.
Like,
yeah. The although I don't know, I feel like the other pickle that they have is that at this point in time, with the way pop culture is, and as popular as Wolverine is, how can you do an X-Men movie and not have Wolverine in it? And I'm a Wolverine stan, so we've covered this. However, I feel like most of your fans, they're going to expect either Hugh Jackman Wolverine, because unfortunately that's their perspective of Wolverine now, or they're going to want like a Cal Dodd-esque Wolverine. So I feel like that's just, yeah,
why
that is
not
just
Laura?
who?
Exactly. Why not Laura?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm totally even get Daphne Keene to
That's
do
a
it. I'm totally
Wolverine
fine
that
with that.
fans can get behind. They'll
And
be
she's
like,
been introduced already.
yeah, she's been introduced. She's there. Like, give us X-23. And then they can't be like, well, there's no Wolverine.
Oh, there
There
is.
is.
They'll find him eventually. They'll find him eventually. That's what they
You
need to
can
do
have a
is
younger team. You can
yeah.
have a younger core team. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And maybe give the
Oh.
OG team like cameos. Like
Yeah.
they could go the Academy X route, which was a little bit it was different than Generation X because the core team was there. They were the teachers.
Oh
They were
yeah.
at
Well, a couple of them were.
Xavier's. Like it's a bigger institution, so they're sprinkled in there. They had the New Mutant kids in there too. So like you got so many, but that's a lot of characters that you have to play with and focus on. but it could still be done. Like you could still
Yes.
who from that Academy X, we do have some banger characters. We have Hellion, we have
Mhm.
Elixir, we have I'm just trying to think who else is
Surge.
Please gold
Surge.
balls. Please gold balls. Please, please, please. And a
I
soft
mean,
serve cameo.
We got Dust in X-Men 97.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Um,
Like
I think they need to do. I think they need to do X-23. I think they need to do a young Cyclops, and this whole Wolverine, Cyclops, Jean Grey love triangle will be very different this time around. And I am here for it. Like, let's go. Yes, I love it. Well, that was pretty amazing, and like it's always great talking X-Men, especially talking X-Men with you folks, because we plowed through an hour in like no time. Like it felt like we were standing at the water cooler for 15 minutes and just knocked that thing out. Yeah, Michelle, JT, can't thank you guys enough for coming on the podcast. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. We will see each other plenty in the future. We got Uncanny Experience coming up in September. I've only had my,
yes.
and you guys will both be there, right?
we
I
will be there.
we will be there for sure. I'm working, so I will be there
Yeah, I
for
realize that
sure.
was a dumb question, but I didn't just want to keep rambling and be like, well, actually, so okay, yeah, we'll see you then, guys. If you're out there, you're interested in the Uncanny Experience, yeah. As of this recording, they announced today there are 3 VIP tickets left.
There's 2.
There's down to 2.
Someone got 1. There
So-
could be less by now. So
Yeah, by the time this airs, they
VIP.
could be gone. But either way, get tickets,
Yeah.
come hang out. It's gonna be a lot.
But
Of
regular tickets are still available.
fun. Yes, plenty.
Regular are still good.
Yes, and it is worth it. It is
Yeah,
100%
it's
worth it. Yes. So sophomore year's coming. We will do that then. But yeah, once again, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you everybody for watching, and we will catch you all again next time.
Bye.